All right, so we saw a little aria there from opera. So you see how big it is, the voice, especially at the end, she hits that high note. It's very operatic, right? The active of opera. So after that, we had operetta, which is an offshoot of opera. Other than opera, operetta was the first stage kind of music, storytelling via music after opera. It's a light opera, is what an operetta is. So it's operettas are shorter. They're not as big voices. They still have those same people that are using their big voices, but it's more comic typically. And so the biggest difference between opera and operetta, again, an offshoot of opera, is that operettas started to use actual spoken language. Most operas, the majority, if not 99.9% of operas, are just music, right? There's no dialogue, me talking, acting like that. Operettas started to put a little bit of quote-unquote dialogue into the plays as well. They're shorter, typically more comic. The orchestra isn't as big. The costumes and sets and everything typically aren't as grand as operetta. It's supposed to be shorter and more fun. And it started to arise in the mid 18th century in Italy. So you had opera for the better part of 200 years, 150 years before operetta, the offshoot, came in and through. Now, operetta came into popularity not in Italy, but more so in Paris. They're a little more having more fun in 1850, and became operetta in 1850. Operettas are a little more formulaic. They consist of marches, love anthems, waltzes. Rather than these big melodic things of opera, you have more fun with the music. And they're comic and satirical, use the same kind of trained voices, but not maybe as grand as them. So La Vie Parisienne is known as the first operetta. As you can see there, it says opera bouffe, which is comic opera. The La Vie Parisienne had a little bit of dialogue in there. It was funny. It was shorter. Different stories being told rather than gods and all these things that opera tells. It was a story about Parisian life. So what we want to do now is watch the video here in a second. There we go. And so some people you might have heard of that popularized operetta were Gilbert and Sullivan. And their work flourished from 1871 to 1896. They were British, and you'll probably know or heard of a few of their pieces. And watch the opera piece below, and operetta, rather, the piece from the operetta, and we'll see you in a bit.